guys. We can take questions now. So.
Kristen, your math was really very telling how much stuff is left on the table. So the question is, in the areas in that one slide that you had that had all the underutilized, does anybody calculate how many units when we get 100,000 that Chris is talking about, just within that existing density? And the second question there is that area where things were built above the zoning, and it was like quite dense as far as more than freckles. It was like a whole section of the area. And is the planning department maybe looking at upzoning those areas so that the remaining parcels would match the existing pattern?
I think we're trying to take into account all of that information. There is a lot of interest in the city in kind of respecting. I'm going to stand up. There's a lot of interest in the city in sort of like respecting and understanding that the existing neighborhood context is really important. So I think those pieces of data that I walked you through are just one type of the analysis that we did. But I would offer that the Affordable Housing Bonus Program, which Amanda kind of walked you all through, is the city's attempt to think about underutilized sites that aren't currently being used for housing, and can they meaningfully contribute through both changes in density and height. So yeah, that's kind of our proposal.
Do you have a number on how many units? No.
Yes, Amanda wants me to add. We have done some analysis for the Affordable Housing Bonus Program, and we anticipate that it could produce somewhere between 10 and 16,000 new housing units on sites that currently do not have residential uses, if project sponsors either maxed out the state program or chose the local Affordable Housing Bonus Program. Let's say everybody chose the local Affordable Housing Bonus Program, which is the highest density. It would be about 16,000 new units, of which 2,000 would be affordable to low and moderate income households, like our current inclusionary program, and then 3,000 would be affordable to households earning middle income, so 120 or 140% of the AMI. So the total would be 5,000 new affordable units.
Can you talk a little about the differences between the state version of the Affordable Housing Bonus Program and the proposed city version?
But from a formal point of view, the local program does not get additional height. The way the state law works is that it basically says, hello, project sponsor, and a way to show our appreciation for you, or to incent you to provide affordable units, we're going to give you some zoning concessions or zoning waivers. And so there's a menu of waivers that the legislation is still massaging, but starting to really kind of zone in on, is, you'd get like a 5% reduction in the rear yard. You'd get some unit exposure exceptions, a little bit of open space reduction. And all these are waivers that current projects ask for all the time. So although it might sound scary, it's happening already. The nice thing about the way the legislation, both the state and the local, works is that it articulates how low you can go. And it's actually not much. It's a short reduction in percentage. And so basically you get a little bit more if you max out and do more affordability. You get a bit less if you just do the local program. And again, no height under the state law. I think I just messed my words up.
Let me just add,
get in there.
There is something on the height. So the state program, the maximum density you could get is 35% more than what you're allowed. And we have a formula in the planning code that says sometimes you get heights. It really depends on what your existing volume is. So if, according to this formula, that's not really a negotiation between the planning department and the project sponsor, it's kind of in there and set in stone. If the volume of your building can fit 35% more units, then you wouldn't get height. If it can't, then you get whatever volume you need to fit those extra units. We did this because by state law, you're required to allow the volume to grow to accommodate those units. But we wanted to really limit it because we think that the better option is the local program where we get our 30% affordability rather than 13 or 20% under the state program. And over here, you get 2 additional stories of height and density regulated by your height and your bulk restrictions and a 40% two-bedroom. So getting rid of sort of the old way of regulating density that Amanda kind of walked through the pitfalls of. And I want to be totally clear because there's a lot going on in the public around how do we get more affordable housing. There's some ideas that will just mandate 25% more affordability. Our financial feasibility analysis showed that in order to get 30% affordable housing, we really needed to offer this additional density and height. So the way that works is these extra market rate units are subsidizing the extra affordable units, if that's crystal clear. So the differences are local, you get more housing and more affordable housing.
Kirsten, before I ask my question, I'm going to make a comment. A developer, a concept of 30% low income or middle income property, and an elevation of height to 60 or 80 or 120 feet on Geary Street or Lombard Street or Tarbell Street will get 10 out of 11 votes at the Board of Supervisors. Now, that said, I have a question. Planning, I think, has some concept that additional housing in the next 15 years will add 150,000 people to San Francisco's population, bring it to about 1 million. What is the maximum size that San Francisco can grow to? 1 million, 4 million? I don't know. Is it another Hong Kong in the waiting, another Singapore, another Shanghai? Or is it, is it another Manhattanization, as we've said for the last 30 years? I don't know. What does planning know?
I think that's a tough question.
The question's easy, the answer's hard.
Okay, it's a great question. It's a difficult answer. The way I would answer it, and this is kind of showing my work and what motivates me, is I really think the bar that we want to make sure is, are we staying equitable and inclusive? Are we a diverse city? And how do we need to grow to make sure that we are staying diverse? I think my colleagues who work on sustainability have a whole other set of answers. They talk about, if our region's growing, do we want to grow and sprawl? Or do we want to concentrate where we have infrastructure, where we know people are using less GHG, less vehicle miles traveled, less water, all of these things that make sense. I do agree with you, it's a delicate balance. Our department has been working for a really long time to tie infrastructure with new development so that we maintain that sort of San Francisco quality of life. But that's probably like a whole panel that we could just do on how big can we get.
Okay.
Great idea.
I think you're too focused on the present and you're not looking 50 years out, because this problem you're facing now is only going to compound itself in 50 years. So why don't you think 50 years from now? Because the main draw in this area is the climate. Climate's not going to change. So people are going to want to live here. You're going to have to go up because you can't go out. You're not San Jose and you're not the Central Valley. You've got to go up. So when is somebody going to accept that and start saying, have the NIMBYs just go someplace else?
Yeah.
Because we're going up, dude, because that's what the people want to live here, and we're going up. Bite the bullet.
Patrick?
Yeah, hi. In answer to your question about how dense do we have to go, if we had the density of Paris, our city population would be 2.7 million today. So that's 7 stories, 85 feet. But it's interesting to see all these flyers that people are passing out now, talking about the parade of horribles that's going to happen here in San Francisco if you go up to 60 feet. Because it's exactly the conversation we had in Berkeley 18 years ago when we adopted the density bonus there, without the horrific results. And with the result of our producing probably 5 times as much housing per capita as you do here in San Francisco. And I'd like to see someone take on these NIMBYs straight on and say, you're telling me that if we have Geary Avenue lined with buildings the height of those in Amsterdam, it's going to destroy your quality of life? Because that's exactly what you're proposing here. You're proposing 60-foot tall buildings, which in Amsterdam is probably considered the best, most ecological, most pedestrian-friendly city in the world. And I don't think, we see people trying to live in broom closets and laundry rooms and things like that. Someone's got to confront these NIMBYs straight on and say, what are you going to do to provide housing for the people that work in our cities?
I don't think the NIMBYs care, but I was raised here in the city. I live here in the city. I raised my family here in the city, and I think what's important is not only the weather, but the diversity in the city. And I think what's happening is, and they're talking about that, is that the people that make up that diversity are having to leave because they can't afford to live here. So the only way they're going to be able to keep that is to have affordable housing. And I'm not talking about, I mean, yeah, there's low income and there's affordable and moderate and all that. But I think if we don't do that, then we're really going to be a city that's not diverse anymore, you know. So I think that's also important.
Do you have a response to any of this?
We agree.
Last one.
Me? I guess my question was, like, how do we meaningfully meet the city's, housing goals and needs without some sort of upzoning some of the single-family areas? And, I live in Glen Park, and we have a 3-bedroom house, and I share it with, a couple other people. I won't say how many because I don't want to put us into a...
What's your address?
my address down. But, I also think I wonder about, is anybody asking the question about what type of housing, like, we need as well? Like me personally, I don't necessarily want to live, with other people for the rest of my life. Are we asking those types of questions?
I mean, I guess if you're talking about, the fact that the nuclear family as the model of all housing that has to be produced in San Francisco, being a kind of outdated, idea. Yeah, absolutely. I think both in the academic environment, but also, in the bricks and mortar development world, there are lots of experiments going on with different kinds of co-housing, multi-generational housing. So we have, micro units have been answered and obviously have a lot of media attention, but I think there's been not enough attention on the other kinds of housing for, families as we understand them now, which are more diverse than the kind of 4-person nuclear family, because they might have multiple generations, or they might be a kind of intentional community of people who want to live together. So, but we need, as we said, we need more of those experiments. We need to understand that people make choices about how they want to live, and that those choices are sometimes restricted by the types of housing that are available now.
The other question, we're talking about like 16,000 units, and I heard a number that we need to reach. I think you mentioned about 100,000 units to kind of slow the rise in rents and affordability. So how do you impact that number without redeveloping single-family homes into in these transportation corridors where we have public transportation? How do we do that?
Well, ADUs is one way.
Yeah, I just want to add that this program is just one of the many tools the city's looking at. I think the area plans that I showed you in the beginning, I think that was one of the fuzzy slides, but that is where we're doing a lot of housing development. Hunters Point Shipyard and Treasure Island. So there are a great number of opportunity sites or major opportunities. I think this is just one of those pieces. So I think your question is still relevant. Like, how do we as a city constantly look back and figure out how we can reach our end goal, our 50-year goal? But I think what my team is, once this program is completed, what we're really interested in doing is building up our data on our existing housing supply so we can better understand where our gaps are, because we have great data and great policy on growth. What are we going to do? Like, each building has to solve the entirety of the goals, but we don't really understand our existing building supply, so we're kind of solving in the abstract. So I think that might help us answer that question.
Thank you.
there's been maybe a surprising amount today of people saying the hell with what the residents of San Francisco want, which I don't think is a very politically viable policy solution. So I'm wondering if there's a way within the affordable housing density program to address what I think are two of the greatest concerns that I have heard about the potential impacts of it. One would be the change in the neighborhood fabric, which maybe is probably more a concern of homeowners within the city, and the other is displacement, which is probably the fear of more renters in the city. And I think talking about sort of what is the maximum amount of housing that can be created by making all parcels rise to the maximum allowed under the new program might be sort of exacerbating those concerns. Is there a tool within the density program to prevent wholesale changes in neighborhood character and prevent wholesale displacement of existing renters?
I'm going to talk about the second one and then hand the design question over to Amanda. So there's been a lot of media and a lot of conversation around how does this program interface with our existing rent control units. The state contemplated this actually a year or so ago with the help of LA affordable housing advocates. And they said, you know what, you have to at least replace those rent control units 1-to-1 in the new project. That's what we've moved forward with in the fall. We heard very clearly from our tenant advocates and our affordable housing advocates that the fear of eviction and the duress right now is so strong that what we have done, and there's an amendment that you'll be hearing about on the 28th, hopefully you're all coming to our commission hearing, which says this program cannot be used where there are rent control units. So you've got a parcel, it has a rent control unit, it cannot use the affordable housing bonus program. We believe that will alleviate any concerns that those buildings will be flipped for new development. Our team also are really interested, there are a number of projects that are not using this program that are interested in replacing older rent control buildings with larger buildings. So we are going to do a study of those rent control buildings and try and come up with some sort of analysis that's not quite a nexus study, but I'm going to use that word because it probably resonates really quickly in this room, to really understand what the connection between new development and rent control units are. But that's totally separate from this program.
Yeah, and then regarding neighborhood fabric, so just to be clear, RH 1 and 2, they are not in this program area. I repeat, RH 1 and 2 are not in this program area. So what that means is like Geary Boulevard is, but half a block down, 50 feet away from Geary, no, not changing under this program. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. But the good news about that is that's actually where it makes sense, is you want Geary Boulevard, where all the transit is and where all the retail is, to actually have more people so that they're not piling up kind of a block or two out where the bus stop is farther away and where the grocery is farther away. The other thing is the process is not, okay, it's technically going to change. Basically the design process is going to be the same. Like right now, if our office was doing a project in Potrero Hill, we're going to meet early and often with the neighbors. We're going to hear concerns. We're going to adapt to those concerns. If we don't address those concerns, those neighbors have a right to show up at the Planning Commission and voice their concerns, and the Planning Commission will hear them. And that's a process that works really well here in San Francisco. You know, the residents, they have a voice that changes things. And a lot of times we feel in our office that it makes the projects better. So that process is in place. So if we're going to do a density bonus program like at the corner of Geary and X, and you live close, you show up in your neighborhood meetings, and you're going to be able to contribute about what you feel like neighborhood fabric should be like in that particular place.
All right.
Has there been any studies that look at the scope beyond just the residential, look at linkages to adapting or modifying the commercial zoning envelopes, particularly within some of these neighborhood core areas, or expanding or just sort of modifying them to sort of look at some of the qualitative elements related to urban fabric, et cetera?
Well, I mean, the other exciting thing that I think this program is really doing that I talk about a lot today is that because a lot of the zoning in those areas is really outdated, the stuff that we all as a city has come to realize is really good urban planning, like active ground floors and not 1-to-1 parking or 1.5-to-1, you know, a lot of that zoning still exists throughout the city. So the program also allows kind of these new, not new, but just kind of how we've accepted planning in the last 20 years, like an active ground floor, to actually work into some of these projects. So although it's not like a big sweep of an NCD, it's going to make sure that, you know, there is a nice active ground floor and that it's not a dead street, you know, with just parking, etc. So that's one way.
All right, thank you guys, we already went over. Thank you for-